Hi, welcome to episode 35 of Talk About the Passion, Spillage. I'm your host, Christian Campagna, and my guest today is author Michael T Fournier. I named this episode after the Minutemen song Spillage from the Double Nickels on the Dime record. Michael's the author of the 33 and a third book on this very record, and where we did jump around a little on the timeline, I thought Spillage would fit perfect for this one. So if you know those lyrics, that might make a little sense. Michael has authored a few books and is a regular writer in Maxim Rock and Roll and Razorcake. His writing has appeared in a number of different places, including one of my favorites, which I didn't know about until he sort of explained it, was the RS500, which is the Rolling Stone list of the 500 greatest albums of all time. He has a few entries on there, including one on X, Wild Gift, Crooked Rain by Pavement, Physical Graffiti by Zeppelin, and my personal favorite is the Who's Quadrophenia. He has links to all of his writing on his website, which is michaeltfournier.org. You can also purchase his stuff there, and it appears to be updated regularly, which is cool. It's good to see that when people actually update their websites. That's a rare thing nowadays, so kudos to that. If you're a regular listener to this podcast and are a big music nerd like myself, you'll definitely love his writing. A few more things before we start off. One reference in the conversation I wanted to mention was I talked about seeing the Beastie Boys with Fire Hose in the 90s, which was May of 1992 at Avalon in Boston. And they did a collaboration on stage, and I was trying to figure that out in the episode, and I looked it up before I recorded this, and it was Public Enemy's Sophisticated Bitch, which was basically Fire Hose with I think the two Atoms, and that song's also on Fire Hose's live Totem Pole EP, which had that BOC cover and Supertrunk and a couple other good ones. I just returned from vacation. I only managed to record one new episode while I was out there. I had, plans to do a few more, but it just didn't work out. I wanted to when I do this podcast, it's a lot of work, and I want to make sure I'm always putting 110% into every episode. And I was in heavy, vacation mode and didn't have the, the work ethic available in my body to do more than one. The one I did, though, came out great. I recorded it outside in Long Beach, although you wouldn't even notice it. And if you want to hear more of Michael, especially in regards to his book on the Minutemen's Double Nickels on the Dime, check out his interview on the episode of You Don't Know Mojack, the podcast that covers that record. It's their episode number 28. I have a couple other guests scheduled to come out here to record, and I'm going to do a year-end review of music I dug this year, which I imagine will just be, a list of records with some thoughts on those. A lot of good stuff came out this year for my ears, anyway. New stuff and reissues, which people like me end up buying the same record, every 3 years or whatever. I've probably invested, $400 into the same Rolling Stones album. Anyway, you can find this podcast on all of the places you listen to podcasts: Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and these are even on YouTube. I don't think I've ever told you that, listener. You can follow me on social media. I keep the Instagram and Facebooks up to date, even between episodes. If you search Talk About the Passion podcast on either of those sites, you should be able to find me. Thanks again for listening, and let's get into episode 35, Spillage, with Michael T Fournier. So I'm here with Michael T Fournier.
Hello.
How you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Good. And thanks for coming out here to beautiful Rentham.
You got a good view out your window here.
Yeah. It's
nice.
It's better in the fall and winter when the trees start to lose leaves. But yeah.
Do you get charged with a view tax?
No. I rent this actually. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
All right, because my parents live in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And the tax guy came around in like the summer.
Yep.
And you couldn't see the pond from their porch.
Oh, really?
So they didn't get dinged with the view tax. But then, like, this is the part of the year. Maybe I shouldn't even be talking about this.
No.
You can't see the pond at all, no matter what time of the year it is. No view of the pond.
That's crazy. So where did you grow up, Michael?
Well, I guess I grew up in, until 7th grade, until 1987. I grew up in Boston suburb. I grew up in Wilmington.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that's a town, I think it was like, I don't want to say it was gnarly, but I remember, like, as a teenager, I had a tough time there.
Yeah.
And now it's so close to Boston, it's on the commuter rail.
Right.
Now it's like a city that everybody aspires to move back
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
And no one can afford to move
Right,
back.
yeah, of course, yeah.
And then my folks built a house in Concord, New Hampshire in 1987.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that was like a year and a half after the Challenger exploded.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a trip to go back and look at the coverage of that, because all these people I know, all my classmates were on like national television, just like weeping.
Yeah.
You know, because like all these kids got brought to the auditorium.
Yeah, to watch it. Yeah.
Yeah. So in Wilmington, I was like the youngest kid in a neighborhood, right? And I think it was pretty suburban Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Like sports rotated with the seasons.
Right. Yeah.
Then we moved to New Hampshire, and it was pretty rural.
Yeah.
And I was 13. Didn't really have any neighbors.
Yeah.
I don't have any siblings. So it's just like, okay,
Yeah.
here I am, you know? So I went to this new school, and I found like a skateboard magazine in the library that somebody cut up.
Yeah.
You know, they cut all the pictures of like Tony Hawk out.
Oh, yeah.
So I started thinking like, this is something I could do by myself.
Yeah.
You know, so I started. My mom bought me like a Volterra skateboard at Bradley's.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Bradley's, yeah.
Yeah, Bradley's and
Yeah.
all those you know, dearly departed Massachusetts stores. Like
Yeah.
Caldor, Zare, yeah.
Riches.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Bradley's was like our Concord store of choice like that.
Nice.
I started buying all these other skateboard magazines, and there was one person in every magazine who had a Sex Pistols shirt on or a sticker on their board or something. And I just kept seeing it over and over, and I was like, all right, I have to check this out. I kind of knew about Dead Kennedys a little bit because they were one of those bands that was funny.
Yeah.
You know, like they never quite got into the novelty aspect of it, but it was easy for for me, like, you know, coming up watching Monty Python or whatever.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
To get into let's lynch the landlord or whatever.
Right,
you know, or kill the poor.
Yeah,
It's like so obviously humor.
Right.
But then I bought the Sex Pistols tape, and me and my mom were downtown that day shopping, and like we had to go back home so mom could take a shower, and then we're going to church.
Right.
Because I was raised Catholic, and we went to the Saturday Mass.
Okay.
So that nobody had to get up early on Sunday.
Right.
So I had time to listen to one song, and it was the first song. It was
Holidays in the Sun.
It was Holidays in the Sun.
Yeah.
And so like the entire time I'm at church, I wasn't like paying attention to the word of God or anything like that. I was like, why is this dude so angry?
Right.
You know, why can't this guy sing?
Right.
Why didn't they get a good singer for this band? So then I branched out after that, and I just tried to like chase down as much of that stuff as I could.
Right. And were you listening to so what were you listening to before that as a younger?
Before that, like I remember in Concord, my dad bought me a Weird Al record.
Oh, nice.
Right when Eat It came out.
Yep.
So that made me go and listen to some Dr. Demento.
Oh, yeah.
So again, like the Dead Kennedys, like not novelty, but it was like, you know, that same
Yeah,
vein.
of course, yeah.
I was really into Duran Duran for a long time. The first show I saw was at the Centrum.
Oh, all right.
I saw Duran Duran and Erasure in 1987.
Nice. Okay.
I think the same week that we moved.
Yeah. Okay.
Or the week before we moved, like the Saturday before. My dad was totally a trooper and had his fingers in his ears the entire time.
Yeah.
And then when I moved to Concord, I was really used to getting picked on, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what kind of armor can I put up around myself?
Right.
So I started listening, and everybody was listening to the first Van Halen record with Sammy Hagar,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it was like, oh, okay, if I get into Van Halen,
Right.
I can protect myself
Yeah.
from being picked on.
Yeah.
Like if I can wear the right shoes, get the Reeboks or whatever. So it was that stuff, and then that segued, like Van Halen and Duran Duran segued into the Sex Pistols through Thrasher.
Yeah.
Like I saw a picture of Johnny Rotten in Public Image.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God, he's in a band.
Right.
I have to find out about this.
Yeah.
So I would go to the library every day and look
Right.
at microfilm of Rolling Stone and stuff like that.
Nice.
Going to summer camp, I went to Boy Scout camp for years and years. Like I met some guy who was older, this guy from Chelmsford who made some tapes for me. So Boston Not LA was on there. Minor Threat was on there.
Yeah.
So easy to connect to Minor Threat.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then the same thing happened where in Thrasher it was like, oh my God, like Ian MacKay's in a band?
Yeah.
How is this possible? how did I not know about this? So after Duran Duran, I saw Public Image at the Orpheum.
Oh wow.
I saw B-52s at Old Orchard Beach.
Nice.
And then I saw Fugazi at the Channel.
Nice. Was that the baseball field up at Old Orchard Beach?
I don't remember.
Yeah, they had. I remember there was a period in like late '80s when they were having concerts. It was like a little, maybe like a minor league baseball park there.
Oh, cool.
I saw Los Lobos there at one point.
Oh, nice.
So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, my wife just started listening to them.
Yeah. They're a big fan of them.
Yeah. Fugazi at the Channel was on St. Patrick's Day,
Oh yeah.
and Joe immediately broke a bass string.
Yeah.
I remember. So
Yeah.
like Ian's like, hey, I'll give someone $1 if they go swimming right now. And it was the first time I'd ever been to a show without seats. So
Yeah.
there was a pit, and I was like probably 16 or 17 years
Yeah.
old, and I was like, this is how it's going to be from
Yeah.
here on out. Like
Yeah.
when I go to shows like this.
So did you? So that was coming down from Concord.
Mhm.
So with that, did you have friends that you had made up there? That
Yeah,
come
by
in.
that point, I had made some friends. Like
Yeah.
I met some people in photography class.
Mhm.
I remember for that show specifically, a whole bunch of people got on the same Concord Trailways bus,
Yeah.
and I didn't know where the channel was, and we
Yeah.
got dumped off at South Station, and we were just like, there were two crowds. There were
Yeah.
like all these like people with like plastic green hats that
Yeah.
day. And then there were all the like people with leather jackets.
Yeah.
So we're just like, I bet you
Follow them.
these
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. I think I probably did the same thing.
Yep.
Because it is kind of, it's a little bit of a walk. I remember you'd have to walk over that bridge and then down that weird street. It was
Yep.
sort of, it's like a valley of, just weird buildings. And being there as like a teenager in that area of Boston, you were like, this is kind of shady.
Yeah, and it was. It definitely made me feel like tough. Like,
Yeah.
I can hang out.
Oh yeah. Because I grew up in Swampscott, so I didn't live in a city.
Yep.
So same thing, kind of going into that was eye-opening and
Right.
seeing that stuff live. So seeing those kind of bands live, what was that like the first time? Like Fugazi, that must have been pretty.
That was
The energy,
amazing.
like being at like a show without seats, like you said.
Yeah, I could get as close as I dared.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything specific about the pit, but I
Right.
remember that it was big and it was scary.
Yeah.
And I was wearing glasses, like I
Yeah.
had huge, thick glasses,
Mhm.
and I was worried about losing those.
Yeah.
So I just got as close as I could, and it was just like a different set of parameters
Yeah.
with those shows.
Yes.
So, again, at that point, I was like, maybe this happens in my town. I couldn't find anything really.
Right.
I understood that there were matinees at the channel.
Mhm.
I never got to another channel show.
Yeah.
But at that point, Spin especially
Mhm.
was really good with punk coverage.
Yeah. Yep.
So I found out about, I read about Fugazi and Spin.
Right.
I was like, cool, and so I started branching out with Discord,
Yeah.
with skate videos.
Mhm.
There was that Jason Jesse video,
Mhm.
Streets on Fire.
Oh yeah.
And so that's when I heard the Minutemen and Fire Hose and
Yeah.
Black Flag for the first time.
Okay, yeah.
So then the Boston trips, my friends were starting to turn 18 and
Yeah.
drive. So, occasionally I could finagle a ride to
Right.
Boston.
Yeah.
And then we figured out that if you get off the train at Central Square, you can walk down Mass Ave and hit all the record stores.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
then the goal was to get to Newbury Comics where there was pizza upstairs.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, in the garage, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So those the record stores had Second Coming was really good. They had
Yeah.
all the bootlegs.
Yeah, the bootlegs, yeah.
I found Rollins books there,
Oh, yeah.
so
Yep.
that was great.
Yeah.
There were stores where people like Julianne Hatfield worked at Mystery Train.
Oh, yeah, I remember that,
So
yeah.
we're like, hey,
Yeah.
she's in the Blake babies.
Yeah.
Who was it? Malcolm Travis, I think.
Oh, from Sugar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he
He
worked
worked
at
at,
one of those.
yeah.
Looney Tunes?
Nuggets or Looney Tunes, I think, yeah. Amy Mann worked at Newbury Comics early on.
Right. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was before my time.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if I saw her in there, but yeah. So so a lot of this stuff you discovered on your own. You didn't have a older brother, obviously, to show you this kind of stuff. And
Yeah, the guy who made the mixtape for me, this guy Colin
Mm-hmm.
from Chelmsford, took me to see Public Image, and then we went to Harvard Square beforehand.
Right.
So I went to some of these record stores.
right.
And then at summer camp there was one older guy named Chris, and
Mm-hmm.
he was 24 when I was 16, I guess.
Yeah.
So I could my parents trusted him.
Right.
So I'd be like, hey, can I go to this show with Chris? So I saw B-52s with him, and I saw Sonic Youth with him
Oh, wow.
at the
Nice.
Orpheum.
Yeah.
But basically, like you said, those guys were great and they helped. But
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in the library,
Yeah.
and I just read as many magazines as I could.
Yeah. And were you doing writing as a teenager?
I started to, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see, I had my first clip.
Yeah.
And it's awful.
Yeah.
I found it recently, and it's
Yeah.
terrible. I wrote about that Public Image show,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
and I've considered bringing it to class and teaching it as
Yeah.
how not to do it.
Right.
There's so many things in there that are pet peeves of mine now.
Right,
When I
right.
was 15.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I wrote a novella for my creative writing class in high school, senior year, and the teacher was really stoked on it. I was reading Vonnegut at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading Douglas Copeland at that point.
Oh, yeah.
And Douglas Copeland was really heavy on me because that was the first time that I had seen people who were roughly my age portrayed in a nuclear family
Mm-hmm.
setting.
Right.
Books about people that I'd read up to that point were, you get married and you go to school and you
Right.
get a job.
Mm-hmm.
So it was 1991, and
Yeah.
there's people working gigs, paying rent in an apartment,
Right.
living together.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that you could do that.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, this is crazy, man. This is heavy stuff.
Yeah.
So I was ripping off Vonnegut and Copeland.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think I got serious about it when I was 30 or so.
Mm-hmm.
It was I was one of those writers who said that they were writers but didn't write for a long time.
Right.
I did some fanzine stuff. I wrote for The Noise and I wrote for
Okay.
Jersey Beat.
Yeah.
But I started taking the craft of it more seriously when I was 30 or
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were writing about music mainly?
Mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mostly was.
Yeah.
Yeah, because all my friends were in bands at that point.
Right.
So it was really easy to go to shows and try and do write-ups for
Yeah.
them.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think. I went to UNH for school,
Right.
and I moved to Boston in 97,
Okay.
and a bunch of my buddies were in this band Garrison that was on
Oh,
Revolution.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I saw 30 Garrison shows.
Yeah.
And I wrote about them as much as I could.
Right.
I prior to that, up in the Seacoast, up at UNH, I was going to all these Elvis Room shows.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And
The Queers and
all
Yeah.
those guys.
Yeah.
Right. This guy John Clark,
yeah.
who ran Ringing Ear Records, worked in the English department,
Mm-hmm.
and he was what a kind guy he
Yeah.
was, because there's all these, like me and my buddies were all, like just goobers.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was super patient with us.
Right.
And we could occasionally hitch a ride to Boston to see some show.
Yeah. Nice.
So I wrote about Sinkhole for Punk Planet.
Yeah.
And started doing some reviews.
Yeah.
And then, so there you go.
And so I went and looked through some of the stuff you've written on your website,
Yep.
and one of the I was blown away when I saw this because I guess I'm kind of jumping all over the place here, but
So am I.
so Quadrophenia is one of my favorite albums of all time.
Oh yeah, right.
And your write-up on that was amazing.
Thank
about
you.
that, because that story of Scott Halpin, I think the guy that played drums at the show at the Cow Palace in '74. It was just one of my favorite stories in rock history. So it was pretty cool. Your approach to that was not even really a review of the record. It's a telling of like how it's great though. It's so what was that? That was for Rolling Stone.
Yeah, the Rolling Stone 500, the RS500.
Right, yeah.
It's this guy that I met when I was reading in Austin.
Yeah.
Like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So there's the list of the 500 best albums of all time for Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
And he has his stable of writers and says, "What do you want to write about?"
Yeah.
So the first one I did was for X. It was for Wild Gift.
Yeah.
And my wife and I moved to Amherst because she was getting a PhD.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have a job at that point, so
Right.
we found the cheapest apartment that we could find.
Right.
And it was $750. And the reason for that is because it had no insulation from the elements or from the neighbors.
Oh, right, of course.
So we just had this miserable time,
Yeah.
so I wrote about that.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because we're desperate.
Yeah, yeah.
I've done a bunch of other ones since, and I got asked to do Quadrophenia, and I don't know the Who very well.
Yeah, okay.
So it's just a matter of doing some research, and I found out about Scott Halpin playing drums.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I just tried to imagine what it would be like.
Yeah.
So I found out that he lived in the Quad Cities of Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
So, he lived in a flat place, and then
Right.
he moved to like a hilly place. He moved to San Francisco.
Right.
I knew that Bill Graham was involved in it.
Yeah.
Bill Graham was also involved with the MC5 getting blackballed.
Yeah.
So I threw that in there.
Yeah.
And I just tried to imagine what it would be like.
Yeah.
And it was, so I did this like speculative piece.
Yeah.
He really did get on stage and play with the Who.
Yeah.
And like Townsend gave him shots of
Yeah.
brandy before
Yeah.
he played. And he did good.
Yeah. There's video footage of that
There is,
performance. Yeah. So it's a pretty crazy. So that was pretty cool. And you
Thank
did Crooked Rain, I think.
I did Crooked Rain.
Yeah.
Crooked Rain.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite records too.
Oh, I love Pavement.
Yeah. So going backwards, you did the 33 and a third on the Minutemen.
Yep.
So how did you get into those guys? Well, you were saying you heard all the SST stuff.
Yeah. That was specifically, that was Jason Jesse skating the Fallbrook ramp in Streets on Fire.
Yeah.
And I was like, by that point, I guess I understood that there was a Boston scene.
Yeah.
Right. There were some guys at school, at high school, who were going into matinees. And so I knew of Slapshot.
Right.
And I was like, my hair's not long.
Right.
My hair's like 2 inches long. Right.
Right.
But I was told early that if I went to a Slapshot show, I would get the crap beat out of me because I had too much hair.
Well, the guitar player had long curly hair.
See, I didn't know.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah.
So I was like, I was afraid of the scene.
Yeah.
I was totally intimidated by it.
Right.
And I was like, oh, geez, if I go to see any Boston bands, I'm going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And, like, my glasses are going to get broken,
Right.
and I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
So the Minutemen, I try to work, and I keep thinking of World War III. It was like, oh my God, this is funny.
Yeah.
These, like, thank God there's a band that has a
Right.
sense of humor.
Yeah.
So I at the Harvard Square Newbury Comics, I got Post Merch Volume 3 first.
Mm-hmm.
I got Double Nickels in Concord. There was a record store called French's that stocked SST and Discord stuff.
Right.
I just, over time, I chased down everything by them and by Fire Hose.
Yeah.
I've been listening to Fire Hose a lot this week.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
So, and Double Nickels was always my favorite record,
right?
Because there was so much to absorb.
Yeah.
I had it on tape, so just listening to side one was an epic.
Yeah.
So when I was living in Boston, I was working in Davis Square for a long time, and I lived in Olston.
Okay.
And to get to work, I could either like wait half an hour for a bus that wasn't going to come, or I could just walk.
Yeah.
So I just walked most of the time, and if I had free time, I would go to the garage.
Yeah.
So on one of those days, I went to the garage. I had 15 minutes to walk around, and there was the row of 33 1/3 books.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool. Like, I wonder who wrote the Double Nickels book.
Right.
And nobody had.
Yeah.
So it was like the light bulb went off, and I was like, oh, maybe I could do this.
Yeah.
So I wrote to David Barker, who was the series editor.
Okay.
And I asked him what to do, and he said, here's when the pitch is open.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that there was this like sort of cottage industry around the pitch process.
Oh, there is, yeah.
Thank God I didn't have to deal with that.
Right, yeah.
Because everybody's talking about which records they pitched. There's this huge like list.
I bet, yeah.
I didn't know, and so I didn't have to worry about it.
Right, yeah.
Somebody else pitched Double Nickels the same time I did.
Oh, nice.
I found out. So I pitched it. I told Continuum at the time that Mike Watt was going to help me out.
Yeah.
And then I got in touch with Mike Watt, and I was like, "Hey, can you help me out?" because We Jam Econo had just come out.
Yeah.
Right. So I saw that at Coolidge Corner Theater.
Yeah, I saw it there. Yeah.
Did you see
it?
Yeah. It was crazy, right? Seeing Deep.
Yeah, seeing it. I know, big like that. Yeah. So you obviously you didn't see the Minutemen.
No, it was too.
Because it was I saw them once, and at the time I wasn't really into. So again, it was another one of those SST bands that came through that I just wasn't paying attention to, and now I, kick myself because 2 years later I got into them, and
Did you see Firehose?
I never actually. Yeah, I saw Firehose open for the Beastie Boys and Public Enemy. Not Public Enemy, the Beastie Boys. I think it was just the Beastie Boys at Avalon on the Check Your Head tour.
I remember that.
But at the end of the show, or at the end of Firehose's set or the Beastie Boys, they came out together and did Public Enemy. Not My Uzi Weighs a Ton, or She Watched, or one. I don't know. They did a Public Enemy song.
That's so
and
cool.
I think it was. I don't know what it was. I should research that. I'm sure I could find info on that somewhere. But yeah, they came out and played together, and it was very loud.
I never actually saw Watt until after the book came out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like we were talking before you turned that on.
Yeah.
I was going to see him in 2004.
Yeah.
But it was the day the Sox won the series.
Right. Yeah.
So I skipped that.
Yep.
I just managed to miss all the Firehose shows.
Yeah.
At the Paradise.
Yeah.
And I think the first time I saw him was with the Stooges.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah. Which I know that we're doing tangents.
Right. Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
But this day that I had when the Stooges played the Orpheum.
Yeah.
Me and Watt had lunch first.
Oh, really?
The book just came out.
Yeah.
So I met him in Chinatown.
Yeah.
My wife came out. I gave him the book.
Yeah.
And so all day I'm tripping. Oh man, me and Beck had lunch with Watt.
Yeah.
And they were going to meet friends for the show, and we were at that place, Silvertone, which is a downstairs bar over by the Orpheum.
Yep.
No phone reception in there.
Right.
So I came out, and Watt walks by.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, do you want to come hang out with us? And he's like, he sounds like he sounds. He's like, no, gotta go. He has to go and sound check. And he's like, you see that guy in the window? Beantown Pub.
Yeah.
I'm like, that guy right there? He's like, that's Hugo Burnham. And I was like, that's the drummer of the Gang of Four.
Yeah.
He's like, tell him I sent you. So I went in and I was like, hey, are you the drummer of Gang of Four? And he's like, his hands over his face. And I was like, because I wrote this book about Watt, and his eyes lit up and he's like, oh, da, da, da. Right. So I hung out with him.
Nice.
And then we went into the show and I was like, check out this, like, who is this dude?
Right.
Who's this dreadlock dude wearing overalls?
Yeah.
And it's Springer. Right?
Oh, right.
Who else would it be?
Yeah.
So I met Springer the same day I met Hugo Burnham and had lunch with Watt. And then I bought the fan club tickets.
Yeah.
So we were in like the fifth row.
Yeah.
And they start playing I Want to Be Your Dog.
Yeah.
And he starts yelling, like, let him up.
Yeah.
So everybody rushes the stage, and I'm just standing there with my mouth open, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that everybody is getting on the stage. What a great moment this is.
Yeah.
And so like my wife grabs me and she pushes me up there. So, so me and my buddies like were pogoing and found each other, and we just like
on stage
on
with the
stage.
Stooges.
Yeah. So
That's
that was
pretty crazy.
Day.
Yeah, that is a day.
I'm trying to remember how we got to this. This tangent.
Well, just talking about the Minutemen book.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So how did you first get in touch with Watt?
Oh, that's right. We saw We Jammy Kano at Coolidge School.
Oh, yeah.
So after the show, or after the movie, they're selling shirts.
Yeah.
So I went up to buy a shirt, and this woman says like, "Oh, cool! Thanks for buying a shirt. It saves us a trip to the post office." And I was like, "Are you one of the people who did the film?" And she's like, "Oh, this is my husband Keith over here. He's one of the guys who made the film."
Right.
So I started talking to Keith Sheeran, right, who just died last year of brain cancer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and he was like maybe 50. Like, so I was super
Crazy.
bummed about that. Total sweetheart.
Yeah.
Keith talks to me for a little bit, and I'm like, "Yeah, I want to do this book." And he's like, "Okay, if you need any help, let me know."
Yeah.
So some months down the road, I'm like, "Hey, Keith, remember we talked at Coolidge Corner?
Yeah.
Can you put me in touch with Watt?" And so he forwards this email to Watt, and I get the whole email chain, and it says, "Dear Watt, I don't know who the fuck this guy is, but he wants to talk to you."
Right.
And then so Watt, of course, is like, "You want to come to Pedro?" And I was like, "Okay, I'll come to San Pedro."
Yeah.
So in 2006, right when New Year's Eve happened, I think January 3rd, my friends in Los Angeles drove me to San Pedro, and I met Watt at his place, and it was like being in We Jammy Kano.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got in the van.
And he gave you the tour?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So he's like, he points to a building, and I'm like, he's going to tell me that's the Teen Post where the first show was.
Right. That's amazing.
Yeah. So then we went to Sacred Grounds Coffee House, and I had the list of all the songs.
Right.
And I don't think he prepared anything.
Right.
But he hit probably, more than half of the songs.
Yeah.
Just in his explanation of stuff. And so I transcribed that. I got in touch with other people. This is right as my class at Tufts was happening too.
Right.
So I applied for this gig at Tufts for the experimental college teaching punk rock history. And podcasting was just starting to happen. So I did podcasts of all the listening assignments.
Oh, nice.
And I think they liked that.
Yeah.
So I used the class to get people interested, and I started having people come to the class, and I could talk to them about the Minutemen.
Yeah.
Clint Conley came to class.
Oh, nice.
Nice. And then it worked. The pitch got accepted. I transcribed all the tape, and the way I did the book is I couldn't do a long book about the Minutemen.
Right. Yeah.
So I decided that I was going to try and do, I think, 500 words about each song.
Yeah.
Because each song is some gag.
Yeah. Right.
That San Pedro dudes have.
Yeah. There's so many inside jokes, and I think on the we were talking before about the Mojack podcast, which is great.
Those guys are awesome.
Yeah, and kudos to them for giving us all this crazy information about SST record stuff that we normally wouldn't have known of.
Right,
but
Brian, you guys are doing good.
Yeah. And but I think on one of the episodes they were talking about one of the Minutemen records had a sheet with it that had all the a glossary of San Pedro terms. Oh no, maybe it was a fire. I think it was so maybe one of the Watt records. I think it was one of the later era Watt records.
I think so.
The pump. What is it? The pump room or?
Oh, contemplating the engine room.
Maybe, yeah. I think, but yeah, on one of those they said there's a glossary on the inside of it with all the inside jokes. Which is kind of crazy.
It's so dense, it's so impenetrable.
Yeah.
To everybody but them.
Right. Yeah.
They assumed that everybody was going to get all these obtuse
right.
Yeah,
and it's crazy that became it's an international, it's a huge record important record for lots of people, and to have that much stuff that people might not really get is pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah, and I'm I feel fortunate that I was the guy who got to ask those questions.
Yeah, to get into Mike's brain, and so he must have been happy to do that too. He seems pretty into talking about his, music and creating and that kind of stuff. So that must have been cool for him too, to kind of revisit that stuff, and bittersweet for him as well.
Yeah, I think so. He was super cool about it. He answered all the follow-up questions.
Yeah.
I've seen him. I bumped into him a bunch of times.
Yeah.
I've done 2 gigs that he's been on.
Yeah.
The way I got my novel deal is that for the 25th anniversary of Double Nickels, which would have been 2009, this publisher in New York wrote to me, and they were like, I was living in Maine at the time.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, we're doing this 25th anniversary thing. Do you want to come down and be part of this?
Mm-hmm.
And so I immediately wrote back and I said yes.
Yeah.
And then they wrote back and they said, oh, Mike Watt and Richard Hell are going to be there. And I was like, well,
sure.
That seals the deal.
Yeah.
So since I was living in Maine, it would have taken 8 hours to get there. So I flew to New York, and I met Peter and Kathy, who do Three Rooms Press.
Yeah.
And I did I talked about the book.
Yeah.
My friends in Worcester are in this band called Pillowman.
Mm-hmm.
And they for Halloween, actually tonight at the Hotel Vernon, they're doing the Minutemen cover.
Oh, nice.
So Peter and Kathy were like, hey, do you know anyone who might want to play this Minutemen show? And I was like, I think I might have something for you.
Oh, nice.
So I got those guys on the bill. So I did that, and then I did when Watt's book On and Off Base came out on Three Rooms Press.
Yeah.
Peter and Kathy were like, does your band want to play?
Right.
In my first novel, there's a fictional band called Dead Trend.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would just like walk around the house and I'd be singing these these polka songs, which are hardcore songs in my head. And my wife's like, you should figure out how to play those.
Yeah.
Because she knew all the words to like Broken Bones and Bad Policy and stuff like that. So I figured out how to play them. And my buddies, Tim and Powers, were in a band up in Maine called Great Western Plain.
Yeah.
And I was like, do you guys want to be in this band? And then we got my buddy Jay to be the singer.
Okay.
Having never been in a band before.
Yeah.
But he's perfect for it.
Nice.
So Dead Trend plays this show. Like we'd played maybe 10 shows before that. And we play this show in New York City at Le Poisson Rouge.
Mm-hmm.
And so Watt, Jay Mascis, and Murph are the Stooges cover band.
Yeah.
And then there's this rotating cast of characters singing vocals.
Yeah.
So like Kurt Weill and Thurston Moore and Sharon Van Etten are singing vocals. And it's like, how is this happening?
Right. That's pretty surreal.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And so that book was Hidden Wheel? Is it the
Yeah.
And so what was the story with that book?
I was writing that in Boston before I went up to Maine for grad school.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the Minutemen book, because of teaching at Tufts.
Right.
I got an interview at UMaine. My wife was going there at the time,
Yeah.
and I got accepted to this program, which was shocking to me because I was such a bad student.
Right.
I majored in smoking cigarettes and growing my hair.
Right.
At UNH. So I got into grad school at UMaine.
Yeah.
And I think that program was the push.
Yeah.
That got the novel draft to be a novel.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with this guy, Dave Kress.
Okay.
And he was in a bunch of Boston bands. He was in a band called No Such Animal.
Okay. Hmm.
They played TTs a little bit.
Okay.
And I worked with this other guy, Alex Irvine.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a sci-fi writer.
Oh, wow.
He just put out an illustrated guide to the illustrated history of baseball.
Oh, nice.
I'm not telling you the right name.
Right.
But yeah, Dave was like a postmodernist, and Alex was a sci-fi guy.
Okay.
So I got those two points of view in there.
Mm-hmm.
The book was essentially the me character living in Alston.
Yeah.
Except it's not Alston. It's it's Freedom Springs.
Okay. Yeah.
And the framing device that I used for it was that a solar flare erases everybody's hard drives.
Mm-hmm.
So all the scholars of the future no longer have digital records.
Right.
So they have to reconstruct what happens now based on fanzines and records.
Mm-hmm.
And books.
Oh, nice.
So it was like,
that's
it was
awesome.
a nod to this culture.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah, Dead Trend was a fictional band in there. There's fake flyers in that book. There's a character who is so caffeinated that there's no punctuation. Very grad school of me.
Right.
Very clever of me.
Yeah,
and then I took the book on tour and I couldn't read it out loud because it was like, this is impossible.
Right.
So in that book, in Swing State, the
Yeah.
next book, the character with the fractured narrative has like these really punchy, like 2 or 3 syllable sentences.
Nice.
Because I was thinking more about reading out loud than being in grad school, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you want to talk more about the Tufts, what you were doing at Tufts?
Yeah. Again, experimental college is the program at Tufts.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think you're an expert at something, you apply for this gig.
Yeah.
And I told the experimental college that I would be incorporating podcast technology into a traditional history class. So it was multimedia.
Mm-hmm.
And I started the class with like the Velvet Underground.
Mm-hmm.
And I used the texts that were available at the time. So Our Band Could Be Your Life.
Yeah.
And We Got the Neutron Bomb.
Yeah. Yep.
And I sort of cobbled together a history class.
Yeah.
I would have people come in. Again, Clint Conley came in.
Yeah.
Total sweetheart.
Right.
Adam McGrath and Steve Brodsky came in.
Oh, wow.
Ed from Garrison came in.
Yeah.
Ian Mackay came in.
Nice.
Yeah. So I had a day in Boston with Ian.
Yeah.
And that was super fun. So I taught that for like 3 semesters, I think, 10 years ago. And it would be so much fun to try and do that now.
Yeah.
Because there's so much more material than there was.
Yeah, I was gonna say at that point, there really wasn't many books, and now it's like 15. Was that 15 years ago? 10 years ago?
Yeah, jeez, I think 10 years ago.
Yeah, and now there's so many, and it's there's a lot of information that we didn't know. So it's kind of cool to see everything getting documented now by different people.
Yeah, like you're a couple years older than me. Were you cognizant of all the touch and go stuff, of negative approach and everything?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I had, because I got, when I first got into it, people would give me like a list and say, buy these records.
Mm-hmm.
But one of them was the Process of Elimination 7-inch single. The Meatmen, which I don't think it was on Touch and Go. It was on, I don't know what it was on, but that was one of those, that record wouldn't be able to come out now. Right. And even like when I listen to it now, I cringe, because I'm like, Jesus. And then Negative Approach, Tied Down was the next one. And then I kind of got into sort of that Midwest stuff a lot, the Necros and that stuff. But I didn't know much about it. It was very mysterious. And you'd see maybe reviews and interviews, but yeah, there wasn't much history that at least I knew about here in Boston. So I wasn't that aware. It was all sort of mysterious to me. Once it got further and further into the middle, I kind of knew the L.A., Black Flag and Dead Kennedys up north, and then Boston and D.C., but the stuff in the middle was kind of mysterious to me for whatever reason.
I think Austin was documented a little bit.
Yeah.
I guess with Austin, it goes back to the Bad Brains thing.
Yeah.
Which was always a bummer.
Yeah, I know.
So, and there were some books about Toronto as
well.
Yeah,
yep.
So it would be fun to teach that again.
Yeah.
It would be fun to incorporate No Wave into that.
Oh yeah.
But I think in retrospect, that was a once in a lifetime thing.
Yeah. Definitely.
But I bet you somebody could convince Tufts that class should be done again.
Yeah.
So somebody, hey, pick up the ball. Come on, listeners.
And so you do quite a bit of writing still and you do reviews, and do you do creative, aside from writing books, like creative stuff?
Yeah.
Do you try to do that? Balance both?
Yeah, I try and have balance.
Yeah.
I do what I can.
Yeah.
The way it works now is that I get up and for 2.5 hours in the morning, I work on the next book.
Okay.
After Swing State, I wrote a book that wasn't good.
Yeah.
And I was bummed out about it for a little while. And then starting in February this year, I got over it.
Yeah.
Like, I had like...
Not good, and you just weren't satisfied with it, or?
I thought it was done.
Yeah.
And I sent it to my editor.
Right.
And she, I teach writing.
Right.
Right. So the way that you do it is you put the nice stuff up front.
Right.
And then the critique.
Right.
And then, like, if you work on this, it's going to work out okay.
Right.
And so my editor, who I love, and God bless her, does that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, here it comes.
Right.
And like the 11 things that followed,
right,
like that was the whole book.
Yeah.
She's like, you need to work on this, and I was like, oh, so basically, like, this is no good.
Right.
Like,
Right.
And I was sad about it.
Yeah.
But I think I forced it because I can't remember who said this, but it's like, when you drive at nighttime, you can see as far as the headlights.
Yeah.
So, and that's the way that I should be approaching my fiction. Is that, like, I'm driving a little bit every day, and I can see this far ahead of me.
Mm-hmm.
But with that last book, I was like trying to get to these spots.
Right.
And there were no roads to those spots.
Yeah.
So I was like forcing those spots.
Right.
So the new book, like, I'm working on that 2 or 2.5 hours a day.
Yeah.
I've been writing for Razorcake for 5 years.
Yeah.
They used to be Flipside.
Yeah. Oh, really? I didn't realize that. Okay.
Todd
that
Taylor,
makes sense.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, yeah.
Todd Taylor was working with Al Flipside when Flipside folded.
Yeah.
And after that, Todd put Razorcake together.
Oh, right.
15 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. So I've been writing for them for 5 years.
Yeah.
And it's the thing that I always wanted.
Yeah. I always liked them better than like the camps were Maximum Rock and Roll and Flipside. And I actually recently even went on eBay to see if I could find some old issues of Flipside, because that was my favorite, and it was much better than Maximum Rock and Roll. I'm not afraid to say that in public. I think it was, I don't know, just covered more stuff, and I like it seemed like Cream magazine to me almost.
Cool.
For like similar to that. Like if you thought of like, well, I wouldn't think of Maximum Rock and Roll as Rolling Stone, but same kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, Flipside I always liked. So I didn't realize Razorcake was part of that. So
yeah, so some of the same writers, like Jimmy Alvarado used to write for Flipside.
Yeah,
and he's voluminous. Like, so much of the reviewing that he does, or so much of the reviewing is done by him.
Yeah,
because he just does like 15 or 20 reviews.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I just started writing for Maximum too.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah. So, because I feel the same way about it that you did.
Yeah.
When I was reading it, it was like from 91 to 95 or so.
Okay.
And certainly, like, you can't fault Tim Yohannan for having a vision of what it should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the vision was really narrow.
Yeah.
And by that point, I could read Punk Planet
and
Heart Attack and Hit List.
Oh, yeah.
So I read all of those.
Yeah.
And honestly, when Reverend Norb quit Maximum, I was like,
yeah, I know, right? That was, and I did love Maximum Rock Roll. I don't mean to say like I didn't, but yeah, you're right though. It was a very narrow sort of vision, and I aligned with them politically, I think, but musically it seemed kind of narrow to me.
Yeah.
How they
it's so much more inclusive now than it used
is
to.
it? Yeah. Nice. That's good.
It's super refreshing, and like, Al Quint writes for them.
Yeah.
My friend Erica from Western Mass moved to Oregon.
Yeah.
And she writes. She's got a really specific thing. She writes about like sort of chilly, spindly post-punk.
Oh, all right.
It sounds like The Fall.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And there's this whole like that's not the vein that I mind.
Right.
So but I like that stuff.
Yeah.
Erica's columns are so good.
Nice.
So I write for Razorcake, I write for Maximum, I write for Chicago Review of Books.
Nice.
I pitch a bunch of other places. I get some creative stuff here and there. I do book reviews.
Mm-hmm.
My wife will say correctly that this is all just a racket to get stuff in the mail.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course.
I love like mail day.
Yeah. When I did the zine, even though it was early on, I remember writing to Placebo Records, who had like JFA, and I don't know if I was on the SST list, but you could just write these companies and say, hey, I do a zine, and if you send me promos, I'll review them, and you can, and they just send you stuff, and same kind, but it was on a much smaller level. So, but now, do you think music writing nowadays, now that print format isn't like a huge thing, how is it different now? Do you are people into it as much? And
that's a good question. I had forgotten that Pitchfork existed.
Yeah.
Right. It just sort of stopped.
Yeah.
Being interesting to me.
Yeah.
This week, I can't remember who it was, but there was some band that got a 1.6 on Pitchfork.
Yeah.
And it showed up on my Facebook feed and on my Twitter feed, and I was kind of surprised that Pitchfork was still a thing.
Yeah.
And that being mean about a record
right.
got a bunch of attention.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there was in the 90s, there was definitely that period, like the mean zine period.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was kind of fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course.
But now it's just it's content driven.
Yeah, yeah.
There was a hot take this week. Somebody was like, "Oh, In Utero's a bad record," and I was like, "Come
one
on."
of these, yeah, I know.
There's always just such obvious.
Yeah,
throwing.
I know. There's so many of those. There was one a few years ago that was it's like the 10 worst. But I don't know. There's a few different guys. I'm not going to mention their names that write a lot of those kind of trolling articles that are basically just it's not even interesting or funny. Usually, it's just kind of silly,
right.
But it fuels idiots to be like, yeah, the Beatles do suck. You're like, oh no, they don't.
That thing.
Yeah, like that kind of stuff. There's always those articles, why Nirvana sucks, or that kind of thing. You're like,
yeah.
How about you tell me why they're great, or just something else. I don't know. That kind of writing to me is just not interesting.
Yeah, it's more interesting and more engaging now to just take the armor off and be like, hey, I like something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Not couch it in any sort of irony and just be like, I like a record.
Right.
So I like critics, I like writers who do that.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned Erica, I mentioned Al.
Yeah.
Sort of like on the bigger scale, Amanda Petrusik, who writes for the New Yorker, is fantastic.
Yeah.
She's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Hanif Abdurraqib was writing for MTV News for a while, and his collection of essays, They Can't Kill Us Until They Kill Us, is just fantastic.
Yeah.
So there was an article in that about the embedded racism in punk rock, and certainly Lester Banks did that before.
Right. Yeah.
But it was uncomfortable to me in all of the best ways.
Yeah.
Where I was like,
so what is he talking about in that?
Just in that essay, he's just talking about how, he's the only black kid at the punk show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And about how, everybody there thinks that they're like an outcast and an outsider.
Yeah.
And it's not true.
Yeah.
Or it's true in certain ways, but not other ways.
Yeah, of course.
So it made me, check myself.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
When I feel my defenses go up.
Right,
like,
right.
Actually,
right.
I'm defensive because he's right.
Yeah, yeah.
So I like that. Like those people are doing really good work.
Yeah.
And I think that the reason I gravitated back towards Maximum was because that's how I used to find out about stuff.
Yeah.
Like when I'd go to Newbury Comics, there would be 10 new zines that were out.
Yeah.
And if a band showed up in 6 of them, I was like,
that's going to be something, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I missed that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I so that's why I'm happy to write for Razorcake.
Yeah.
When stuff is in Razorcake and Maximum, I go and check it out.
Yeah.
Big Takeover still comes out.
Oh yeah.
Jack Rabbit still puts that out.
Nice.
So those are
like Bibles too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are good. There's a lot in those.
Mm-hmm. So it's like people, the complaint, like the complaint that you start having when maybe when you have kids or when your job takes over your life or something is like, oh, it's like there's no good music out there, and which is totally bogus.
Right. I know. I had that, and same kind of thing. I was just this sort of a busy period in my life where I just wasn't paying attention. But it was me. It wasn't. I just stopped paying attention, and then at one point I heard. I think it was probably the early 2000s is when I was that guy. I was like, yeah, there's no good. And I heard that first Strokes record, I was like, wow. And I remember even like making fun of them before I even knew they, even heard them. And then I finally heard that record, and I was like, oh, this is great. And then I've kind of, got back into buying music again, and now I do that again every Tuesday. Well, not every Tuesday, because I don't do that anymore, but every week, I'm buying stuff or.
So where are you looking for your direction?
For music?
Yeah.
I go online. It's mostly friends, people I follow on Instagram or, artists, and but I'll read reviews but for a long time I was listening to music at work. Like a new record would come out and I'd be playing it at work, so I wasn't really paying attention. And maybe the last year or two, since I moved into this new place, I'd been kind of moving around for years. And now that I have been collecting records again and buying stuff, I'll sit down with a record and do like I did when I was 16 and sit there and listen to the record, flip it, look at it, and listen to it in the car, and, buying CDs and vinyl again. And so it's been cool to kind of get back into that and just being engrossed in music rather than just having it. And that's what people do now, I think, is the culture of, music listening is you have it on at work on your computer and it's like on shuffle or something, and it's sort of background noise and you don't get it. It's not this, you're like, oh, this is, I heard the new, whatever record. It sounds great, but you didn't really pay attention until you sat with it. And I'm noticing that again, so I'm kind of excited to. And I think doing this podcast has kind of sprung that too. Just talking to people about music and how they got into it and what moves them and stuff is kind of got that back into my life. So I'm kind of glad of that because that was like a big part of everything is music. Totally. So, but I just had that period where I was like, oh, there's no new stuff, and granted, most of the stuff I listen to is from the 90s and previous, but there's still a lot of good stuff. I mean, you'd be ridiculous to say, at some point people can't make good music anymore. That doesn't make any sense. So.
Right. Yeah, with the reviews, like book reviews and music reviews, like having the external motivation is nice. Getting mail of any kind is great, but like getting books in the mail makes me be contemporary instead of just like rereading punk books.
Right.
I podcast for Razorcake every 6 weeks or so, and having that deadline makes me actively go out and find stuff.
Yep. So, I think having like a deadline or like a goal with stuff must be make that easier.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I guess there's plus at this point, like I have friends who write and play music too.
Yeah.
So it's like it's easy to keep a finger in certain pies.
Right. Yeah.
My buddy. Well, I should preface this by saying that I try and do readings as often as I can. Mm-hmm. So I try and do at least a week every summer.
Yeah.
I do weekends here and there.
Mm-hmm.
In 2012, when I started touring on novels, I did a reading in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and that's a town that already has like an aura around it.
Right. Yeah.
Like before the reading, which was in a basement.
Oh, nice.
Somebody is like, yeah, that used to be Dead Guy's house. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, like, oh, Lifetime used to live down the street. So it's like, oh my God, it's crazy.
From a basement in New Jersey?
Yeah, totally.
Or is it a basement in New Brunswick? No, a basement in New Jersey.
I think it's New Jersey.
New Jersey, yeah.
So I read with a band. I read with Black Wine, right? And, I was listening to a lot of like math rock when I lived in Boston. I was like sort of towards that like heavier side of Touch and Go.
Oh yeah.
Like June of 44 and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I was away from like pop punk for a
Yeah.
while.
Yep.
You know, it's easy to burn out.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course.
And I totally did.
Yeah.
Jeff plays in Black Wine.
Yep.
He was in the Ergs, who are a big pop punk band. So now I keep an eye on New Brunswick. And there's all these amazing bands from there. Like Screaming Females are the best band of the
Oh, I love that band. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Right. So they're from that scene.
Yeah.
This new band, Character Actor, is Jeff with some of the Nightbirds.
Oh, no, I love the Nightbirds.
Nightbirds are awesome.
Yeah.
Spouter is like this weird kind of like diva-y sounding
band.
Huh. And they're on State Champion Records, which is Mike and Marissa's label, the Screaming Females.
Yeah.
So it's fun, like, finding towns. I guess probably in a similar way.
Yeah.
As
in the
before.
80s,
Yeah.
Definitely.
And being like, oh, okay, these weirdos live here.
Yeah.
And these other weirdos live here.
Yeah, so stuff is still out there. There's no, it's you, the person, that has to go look for it. And, and I think, now there's so much to find, especially with all the history and then the writing and stuff that's in websites and blogs and documentaries now. So, I feel people now are spoiled. I love it, it's cool to have like a book, written by Dave from MDC and stuff like that. So
I just read Al Schweitz's book.
Oh, you did?
And that book is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. He it's like it's a prison narrative.
Yeah.
And it's like, I never really thought about being in a band and being in prison in the same way.
Yeah.
But it's like there's tedium, and there's patterns to it.
Yeah.
So good.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so you've played music too. So in Dead Trend.
Yep. Oh, jeez.
Are you the singer in Dead Trend?
The only time I sing when I'm in Dead Trend is when the lyric Dead Trend appears in a song.
Yeah.
So like in half of our songs, I've written in like the name of the band.
Yeah.
Because John Spencer Blues Explosion.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It always used to crack me up.
Yeah. Blues Explosion.
Yeah. So I play drums in that band.
Oh, okay.
When I moved to Maine, after living in Boston for 10 years, I moved to a house which had a basement and a garage.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Look at all this space. So my buddy Damien, who I'm going to see after this, gifted me a drum set.
Oh, nice.
And I spent time. I took When the Levee Breaks into the basement.
Yeah.
Trying to separate the bass foot from my hands.
Yeah.
So basically, I can just play that kick pattern.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
I can either play it fast or slow. So it's like a polka song or it's like a classic rock song.
Right.
So I wrote, and I have one chord shape.
Right.
So I can play any Ramones song. And I just like slide the chord up and down the neck. So I wrote, like our album False Positive was 27 songs.
Nice.
Like one chord shape.
Yeah.
I wrote most of those.
Yeah.
And then on we put out the Anti-Trump EP.
Oh, nice.
We put out Computers for Seniors.
Oh, nice.
And that's a 7-song EP.
Yeah.
That's when we started splitting up the songwriting duties.
Right.
So I play drums in the back. I yell the band's name when it comes up. The first Dead Trend record is written as if it's 1986.
Oh, nice.
So we sing about Reagan and the president and Oliver North and all that stuff.
Nice.
And it's so dumb.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
Yeah. Al Quint and I had a band in the 80s called Shattered Silence.
Oh, you were in Shattered Silence?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So we did a reunion on his 55th birthday a few years ago.
Nice.
With Drop Dead and Fuck You Pay Me from Cleveland.
Yeah. Like Tony Urba's in that band.
Yeah. And but same thing. We used to have a song called I can't remember the name, but it was about Oliver North. But I just remember thinking like, it's 2016. We're singing about Oliver North and our parents and shit like that. So, but that's pretty cool.
What's funny is that with the Evans records, right. They're all super specific, but he doesn't. Ian and Amy don't put the date stamps in there.
Really?
So with like Bush Jr., Bush 2, all of those songs were obviously about Bush 2.
Right.
And, then the Obama years happened.
Yeah.
And now you listen to those records. And
like, it makes sense again.
Yeah, like, these are Trump records.
Yeah. I know, it's pretty scary.
Yeah, whereas like our records are like, it's 1986. We hate Ronald Reagan. You know.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so to sort of wrap it up,
Sure.
moving forward, what are you working on? Stuff now?
Yeah,
Like
I'm working on the new thing,
Mhm.
which I'm like 45,000 words into.
Yeah.
I was starting to think that maybe I would get away with like the 60,000 word
Yeah.
novel,
Yeah.
which Swing State is.
Yeah.
But it's starting to feel now like it's going to be longer. It's going
Yeah.
to be 90,000.
Nice.
The book, I guess, is concerned with the day after. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was on TV when I was 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, bad dreams. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a bunch of kids in the Boston suburbs. Go figure.
Yeah.
And they're like sort of dealing with that and
Yeah.
other stuff that's happening to them. So I'm working on that. I'm still doing reviews for Maximum and for Razorcake.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully Dead Trend will play again sometime
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
2 of those guys moved to Brooklyn. One of those guys moved to Richmond.
Yeah.
So I don't see them as often as I would like.
Yeah.
We recorded the last one on day 100,
Yeah.
you know, and we were supposed to play this summer, but or May or June or something, but like wires got crossed.
Right.
It was probably my fault, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then like I have some other some writing projects that I don't want to talk about just
Right.
yet.
Okay. Cool.
So, yeah, I'm just trying to do the thing.
Yeah. Nice. And you still go out and see music all the time, and it still moves you. Obviously,
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
yeah. You're going to see the Descendants tomorrow. You said.
I am. Yeah.
That's pretty. I saw them last year.
Did you see them in Providence?
Lupo's, or maybe 2 years. Was it 2 years ago? Was it Lupo's? Maybe a year
With
ago.
Nightbirds, right?
Yeah, with Nightbirds. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was at that.
And they
show.
were so fucking good. Like
Yeah.
you kind of forget that they're this, poppy, catchy songs, but the guitar playing and bass, the instrumental is so perfect and like all over the place, and like the bassist is amazing.
It's
good
so
stuff.
much fun to watch those guys play.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's an Instagram account I follow called it's like Milo with his hand on his ass or something. It's just all pictures of him singing because he's always gonna. Yeah.
That's good. I like that.
But anyway.
So yeah, I'm trying to think who else I saw recently. This band from New Hampshire called Notches
Yeah.
are fantastic.
Yeah.
It sounds like old Ringing Ear stuff.
Yeah.
It's got like the big sort of like fuzzy, crunchy hooks.
Mhm.
So I saw them at
Nice.
Charlie's this summer.
Yeah.
I see as many Screaming Female shows
Yeah.
as I can. Trying to think. My friends are in a new band called Rules.
Yeah.
It's like my friend group's super group.
Yeah,
So it's like Garrison, Frozen Culture, Slow 4, Kids Near Water.
Mhm.
Like all my friends' bands.
Yeah.
So they played pretty recently. I saw them.
Yeah.
And I'm always keeping an eye on listings as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately, because I live on the Cape, I've been missing more shows than I've
Right.
been seeing recently.
Yeah.
I missed Radioactivity because I didn't buy tickets
Ah,
fast
right.
enough.
Yeah.
But I would have missed some playoff game.
Right. Yeah. Of course.
But I'm going to do that tomorrow when the Sox win the series. I hope
Yeah.
I didn't jinx it.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, thanks for doing this, Michael.
Yeah.
This has been great.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Sure.